Dorks, we're all excited.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of In the Moment with myself, Michael D. Jones. And I have a wonderful, amazing guest today. Her name is Elle Martini. She is a dear friend. She's a producer. She's a writer. She is a director. She is just a badass. And I want to invite her because I just wanted to hear all about her, for her to share some of her stories, the good and the bad, and just kind of, the success that you have and just where you are in life and all those amazing things. So welcome and thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me, Michael. It's
Yes.
great to be here.
So how are things? So no, okay, you live in Portland, Oregon. That's where we first met.
Yes.
I lived there for
Moment.
10 years and we met. So why don't you tell me just why don't you tell us a little bit about you, your journey, and just kind of the flavor of Ellie?
Yeah, I was thinking about this actually a few weeks ago, walking with my dog, just sort of how do you introduce yourself for something like this? And so at my core, I'm a writer. I feel like first and foremost, I got started writing. I'm sorry, let me start over, Michael. I'm so sorry. I'm nervous. You're going to cut this, right? Or is
Don't
this
worry
in
about
one
it.
flow? Can we
It's
start over?
fine.
Okay.
Don't worry. Listen, this is the thing. It's in the moment. It's real. So don't
Right.
worry about it.
Yeah. Okay. So you could cut this. Sorry.
Sure. That's right. So, yes,
All
why
right.
don't
So
you tell
yeah.
us a little bit about your story, Ellie?
Yes. Okay. So I'm originally from Maine. I grew up on a farm with 55 acres. And so that's why I brought up writing to start with. At my core, I grew up with a very loud and energetic family. And I'm definitely an introvert at heart in ways. And so I grew up writing sort of out in that back 55 where I grew up. And so how did I get out west? Oh my gosh. I left home at 17, actually in some ways, due to the fact that my family was so amazing, I felt like I needed to have an adventure of my own. And especially as a young woman, that was just something that was in my soul, like from the very start, was just this engine of like adventure. And so that's what led me west. And then, yeah, eventually I was going to write like the great American novel. That was my plan. And I got really bored and lonely in a lot of ways. And so I started to think about getting a master's in writing and all this stuff. At the time, I was living in California, in Oakland, with my ex-husband at the time, and yeah, I just thought, you know what? I want to collaborate. I want to be around other artists, and so that's when sort of like my soul work merged with this mortal stuff we have to do every day, and that's what led me to Portland. I came up here to get my master's in film, and then, as the story goes, I did some Googling about current stuff that was happening in Portland, and Michael Jones came out. And the rest is history. It's true. You were one of my first contacts up in Portland, and that's how I ended up in the film industry. So,
And I was just starting out. I didn't know anything back then. I'm like, all right. But what I find interesting is that you say that you are an introvert. However, you are in a field where you have to be an extrovert because you are a boss. And I mean, so why don't you explain to people what you do? Because I primarily do feature films. That's my thing. You're kind of in a different niche. So why don't you tell us a little bit
yeah.
about that?
Well, it's interesting you say that. Actually, I was thinking too that some of the stuff that I was writing, just taking notes, thinking about this whole adventure with you, is that my personal world and my private world is so busy with a lot of ideas that are in my mind. And that's why I say I'm an introvert. I need that time to sort of incubate, to have this time to an incubation period to have ideas that roll around in my head. And yet in my professional life and also, in my writing life, it's very public as well. And so how do you bridge that gap between those two things? And so, yeah, I don't know. There's a tension there, I guess, first of all. But for me in my professional life, yeah, a lot of what I do for a living is overseeing a crazy, sweaty, big circus of people breathing on each other and creating amazing pieces of art. And so, yeah, there's an element of being in the front of a crowd as well, of humans too. But I think if you stay in the moment, which is something I've been thinking a lot about too, you can sort of find that even though you're sort of like helming a ship, at the same time, it's the nuances of person to person. That's really like, that's the stitching together of what the piece comes together to become. And so it's those like finer moments where I can shine, where I just try not to think too much about the rest of it. But at the same time, obviously I'm a big talker, have a lot of energy.
I
And
love
so if I stay out of my head
yeah,
and out of my ego,
yeah,
I can slay it, when it comes to leading a group of people
yeah,
into crazy, crazy things.
yeah. I think one of the things, I mean, so because you primarily work in commercials, which
Hmm.
is a much different beast. Like I've done a few commercials, they're great. And, essentially for those of you that don't know, commercials are done in a shorter amount of time, generally 2 or 3 days tops, I think for the most part. But they're intense. I actually don't think the hours are that long, to be honest with you. And again, the ones I've done have been like car commercials. And again, it's a lot easier because you just have a car driving about down the road. I'm like, okay, what do we do? So it's more like lane closures. But again, from what I've seen from your resume and your experience and what you've been doing is you do a plethora of different commercials. And you seem to have a lot of knowledge, which I think is fantastic because you have to come in, produce, manage, oversee everybody, all these things in a short amount of time. So can you just talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So basically, from they call it soup to nuts, from start to finish. It's essentially you get approached about an idea that a client has that they want to bring to life, and my job is really to be the liaison between the client who has the money and putting together this, crew of humans and vendors, and sort of pulling together the entire concept for them to make their dreams come true, theoretically. So, yeah, it's different from film in the sense that it's a short blast. And I love that because that allows me to get back to my own
Right.
work and art. And I still have a lot of layover as far as crew. Like, so we all get to be a part of so many things. But yeah, commercials are short blasts. And, yeah, there's a lot of hurry up and wait, just like film, of course. But the stakes are high, so you have to, prep is so important. I feel like that's really where most of us shine,
Right.
as you know, like, and then once we're off to the races, there you go.
Well, I mean, I love that idea because even on commercials, there's still an idea of assembling a team, putting it together, making sure that it stays on track. And
Mhm.
even when I first met you and you weren't starting off at this position, I always saw you as a multitasker, able to do many things and do them very well. You're highly smart
Mhm.
and intelligent. And I think what's great is that you have such a great energy, which is so
Mhm.
important, I think, in what we do, because again, we deal with a lot of stress. We deal with a lot of egos and a lot of, oh my gosh, we're constantly putting out fires. And to think, both of us, at, where we are in our lives, we've been doing this for a long time and still maintain,
Yeah.
I think there's still some joy. But what really interests me about you is, we knew each other in Portland and I kind of moved away, I'm all over the place and we kind of lost contact. And then somehow I found you again and you had done a short film. And I got to tell you, your short film was beautiful. It's so well done. It was I had no idea. I'm like, "What? That's Ellie? She did that?" And I really do want to just give you a compliment on that because I thought it was a wonderful piece of work. And I know that led you to the next step. So can you just talk a little bit about what inspired you and what got you to say, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to do something for me right now."
Yeah. Wow. Thank you for asking. First of all, yeah, gosh, I mean, I vividly remember I was on sets for several years before I wrote the short, and I was driven. I mean, I was in the moment on those particular projects, films and commercial. But at the same time, I was constantly looking
Mhm.
for who would particularly star, perhaps, in this role. So it was like I was constantly thinking about the piece, but courage wise, bravery wise, of course, you have to get out of your own way because in your brain, you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm going to put out this piece. It's such like a piece of my heart. Um, and take yourself in this whole new direction, and so that was a big risk on my part. But yeah, the kernel of the idea came at the time. One of my best friends, and she was a script supervisor on a film, happened to just look at the dailies and was just like, this is her. And so as the story goes, I was on the production team of a particular film, and just asked the producer, can I drive her to the airport instead of the PA? And then I pitched her on the way to the airport. She loved it. She got, went to her agents and said, I want to do it. Of course, they were like, no, she had a really big season coming up. She was on a show called Dirty Sexy Money that was coming up where she was very glossy, and I
Right.
was going to need to like have her toenails long. And anyway, and so, yeah, we made the piece, and the rest is history. So
Yeah, no, I love it. Again, I just support anyone who does it. That's the one thing. Um, somebody wrote me, they go, "Hey, can we send you something that's not good?" And I said, "Well, don't say that. Don't say that it's not good." I said,
Shoot, you're
"First
breaking
off,"
up.
"Oh, really? Can't you hear me? Ellie, you there?
Oh,
I
it's
got
back. It's
you."
back. It's coming
Okay.
back. Say
All
what
right,
you did just
sorry.
said.
Well,
I'm
no,
here.
someone had
Okay.
somebody wanted to send me a project and they preface like, "Oh, if you want to look at it, I know it's gonna be bad." I say, first off, don't say that. I haven't looked at it yet. So don't put something down. And not only that, I said, first and foremost, I commend you because you actually got something done. Whether or not it's great or it's shitty,
Yeah.
whatever, you went
Yeah.
out and did something because there's so many people that sit and talk about it, blah, 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 blah. But you know what? You got people together, you raised some money, not you, I'm just saying in general. So this is why
Yeah.
I give you accolades because not only did you do it,
Oh,
yours looks stellar. It's
uh,
awesome. You
thank
know?
you. Thank
Yes.
you. I'm sorry, I'm compelled to respond because it's actually, again, I was just reflecting on this in general, thinking, what is my superpower? Okay, one of my superpowers that's in my personal toolkit is to be able to reframe things in the moment, uh, like a lens swap on a camera. You know what I mean? Just so that you can breathe through something and transcend it and get to the next level, right? And it's the same thing I think with creating art or creating a piece of film like this, is that you get in your head and the days go by and it's too late. It's too late. You frame it in this way where it's like, and then you never get the piece of art made. I'm going through it right now, literally. And you will, as an artist, for the rest of your life, most likely, where you feel this agita of like, I haven't done it yet and I want to be doing it. And so if you can reframe that to just actually get in the moment and start to do it, it
Right.
will unfold, and then it'll be exquisite once you get I think in the process of creating it. It stops mattering. Your ego gets out of the way. You know what I mean? And you stop thinking about the end game and having the piece as much as just the process of creating it.
Absolutely. So, and that kind of touches upon, I think you said at heart you're more of a writer. So with that, I mean, so what is your process? How do you determine like what's a successful day in the life of Ellie? Like, how does that work for you? What is your, hey, I'm gonna have my coffee, I'm gonna do this for an hour, but everyone's got their own process. But how does that work for you? And then also, do you feel like, okay, I've done it, now I can share it? Or you're like, oh no, no one sees it. This is great. I'm gonna put it there, which a lot of people do. This is why I'm not a writer.
Oh my gosh. Such great questions. Well, first of all, that you said more of a writer makes me laugh because it's something I ponder often. Am I more of a writer or am I more of a director? I mean, am I truly? I mean, because I feel like I can communicate with other people well enough to create something. And yet I come back to the written word, and I have over 50 journals. I've been writing, free form my whole life. So like what people have boxes full of pictures from their lives. I have vignettes or snapshots of memories that will bring you back just as quickly as a picture. It's just a different way. But yeah, as far as my daily life, I laugh too thinking about what is my routine. I don't have one. And yet if you ask anybody that knows me, they'll tell you I start the day ridiculously early. And it's not because I force myself to, or, part of it is I was probably born that way, but most of it's because I grew up on a farm and I was just up really, really early. And that's my golden hour. Like golden hours for me to write are between 5 or 5:30 and 8. They're also I know. I just read a great quote actually by a writer who reviewed my film. She wrote White Fur. I just wrote a great a great quote by her that said, when a writer tells you they start working before sunrise and you want to say to them, die. Because most people dream that that's the case.
Yeah.
But that's really, it doesn't mean that I always get that time though. And I squander it too. But yeah, I try to write first thing. And also I guess, moving my body, being outside, breathing air. That's a big one. Being with my dog. Those are sort of like, yeah, two things that are a no-brainer daily. Not always writing, forgive me,
Sure.
but just, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Sort of planting seeds.
I think it's so funny
Yeah.
because like you get up early and so my fitness coach, she's up at like, crack of
Yeah.
dawn. And I'm like, oh my gosh. But the thing is, I don't go to bed till 3 and 4 every night. So it's like, well, there's no difference. It's sort of, I just, at 10 o'clock, I'm like, oh, and my girlfriend's like, you're having your espresso now? I'm like, oh yeah, I'm just about to get started. And then I'm up and same thing. I've got Netflix on. I'm on the laptop. I'm doing like 5 things at once. Next thing it's 3 and 4 in the morning, and then I'm up at 8 a.m. So
Yeah. And you have as much energy as well. Your energy is insane. And I've been guilty of texting you before and being like, can I take it back? Where I've looked down and done the time change and been like, no.
Oh no, it's fine.
I have
Yeah. I think
careful.
what's great about your text is it's sort of everyone does it, but you're the first person really like you do the audio. And I'll get be like 10 audios from you. It is like, 1, 2. I'm like, oh my gosh. And
I'm so fucking long-winded.
But it's fantastic. And now I've been doing a lot more audio and my other friends, a couple other friends do it as well. And it's like, oh, it's so much easier sometimes because when you do the voice to text, Siri gets it all wrong. So to actually record the actual audio, that's kind of cool. So thank you. You kind of got me inspired to do that. So
it's fun and it's fast.
It is,
so
because I don't have to do this the whole time. I can just like, hey, Ellie, what's up? I don't know.
Yeah, right? No, it's good.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Oh, no. I was back to thinking about the short film. I was thinking about your question about that and if I answered it. But yeah. So that's kind of my routine as it goes. But yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and one of the things about this podcast and what I'm about and what I want to try to get from other people is the positivity. What are those things that you take away each day? And you're like, okay, no matter what's going on, I always have this. Or what is that one thing that kind of just keeps you going the next day? Do you understand what I mean? Because we all get it, because I'm a Gemini. And there's sometimes like, oh my God, I want to go in the dark hole, but I can only sit there for a little bit. I can't stay there. Like, okay, I allow myself that. I got to get out. So if you have that happening, what are some techniques or skills or things that you want to express to others that work for you?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I guess one of the threads in my life experience, but in a lot of my work as well, is themes of loss and transformation, grief. And I think that's something that can resonate with a lot of us. It's not just loss to death, though definitely that's been a lot in my life, but just loss of innocence, loss of chapters in life, whatnot. So for me, I think what gets me out of the rabbit hole, my family, calls it that. It's obviously a known term. On the daily, actually, is seeing obstacles as more, my mentor would call them trampoline moments, where it's like the lower you sink, the higher you will fly. So there's an element of just seeing your daily events as, what angel am I wrestling with today? Or as my mentor would say, what zombie am I shooting that's coming over the hill? That's so dark. I love that idea. I know it's funny because it's like looking at it each day as, instead of, I'm getting kicked in the nuts. Excuse me, can I say that? Yeah, thank you. Instead, even though it can feel like that sometimes, again, it's that superpower I have of reframing, where if you can get to a place where you can see that it's an opportunity, then it really does help. And I don't mean forcing yourself to do work, or people use that language of learning lessons. I mean, who wants to know? That's a language that like a small child's like, no. As an adult, like, oh, it's not that. It's literally seeing in the moment something as an opportunity, and that in that breath, just like smelling a flower, like that can take you out of your head. Just that brief moment is, so.
No, I love that. And it's fantastic because, everyone has their own process. And, I recently, I gave a lecture, or I talked at the college to the film students, and someone asked me like, well, how do I like recharge? And I thought that was really good. And what I've been doing, what's really been exciting for me is, I have a dog. She'll be 2 years in about a week. And so now when I walk her, and when I wake up in the morning, before I go to the phone, I take her for a walk. Now I'll take the phone, I'll put on meditation music, but I don't check emails or texts or anything. And I don't want the noise. I have a good half an hour to 45 minutes. I just walk and I get all my ideas. My head is clear. And then I can come home, and then I work out, and then I'm ready to dive into like a great, now I can go. And so that has been so therapeutic, just to kind of stop the noise. And for me, it's really just walking with my dog Berkeley, and like all my ideas just flood. I'm like, okay, great. And I just have this new energy. And so that's really kind of my new mantra. And I'm really fulfilled. And even I had to travel recently and I didn't have her, but I still walk. I still make sure I get up and I walk for half an hour minimum, even if it's around the block of the hotel or Airbnb, whatever, just to get my mind thinking. And that has just been something I've been able to appreciate and understand now how important that is before the noise.
Yes, it's so true. It's like, I feel like there's an element, it comes back to that whole idea of incubating, where there's an element of taking time to step away from everything. I love this metaphor of like a race car or a boat where there's an element. A race car is even better though, right? Because everything just feels like it's on blast these days, and it's more and more and more. And it just feels like we're just accumulating more stress. And how do we get out of that? I mean, it's not finding a way out because there's no way. As we age, like it becomes even more. Families are larger. We have more people to care for, all of that. It's, I think, instead looking at it as, how do I handle this in a new way that I don't feel like I'm drowning? And I think in a lot of ways that comes on the daily, where it is stepping aside, taking a breath. Right. And, and then like a race car, you've got your support system, you've got your dog, you've got nature, you've got your neighbors, even if your family's all gone, you've got the cashier at your register, like, grocery store. And then like a race car, or like a boat, you untether and boom, you're back off to the races, like, if people could think of it that way versus I've got to learn how to meditate, I've got to be high on a mountaintop in the quiet, that's not going to happen.
No.
I mean, theoretically, maybe it's going to happen someday, Michael.
No, I think people, I used to be the same way. Oh, before I do something, I would spend like half the day driving around town. I had to find the perfect journal and perfect pen to write down my thoughts. Nowadays, I'm like, I'll take a Post-it. I'm like, whatever. But that was that was an excuse. Everything had to be the right way. And now it's like, no, it's not. I'm just going to do it. I did this. Oh, I got to have the special camera for the podcast. And the camera's right there. I'm using the computer. But there was this idea. And again, it just bought me more time to not do it. And like, no. You got to just do it.
No, that's capitalism just enslaving us. Everybody that loves me would know I'd say that. Oh, yeah. Don't get me going. But, they were sold that all the time, too, to distract us from actually the heart of the activity, which is like the core of what matters. So that slowdown is so important, I think, too, for so many people,
Light died. I don't know why. Again, this is some little stupid light I just got from, I don't know, like $3.99. Who knows? Whatever. Doesn't matter. See, it's in the moment.
I did run to the store like 2 hours before this to get this webcam because all of a sudden I was like,
really?
Hole? Like, yeah. Because in my head I was like, oh, I'm sure the microphone will be fine. And then I'm like, oh my God.
Why wouldn't you just use the computer like I'm doing now?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know. I just figured this would be better for your sound.
Okay. Well, there you go. I'm still learning. I got to find someone to even edit these.
So, oh my God. Ooh, we'll think about it.
Yeah, we'll talk. So again, because I only have, this is going to be coming up because I do half an hour. I don't want to like bore everybody. So as we're walking away from this, what is something that you want to promote?
Oh, geez.
No, hold on. Is it something, two things. Is it something where we can put a link to the short so others can see it? I don't know. And what is your next? I mean, do you plan to do another one? Like, what's the next thing for Ellie that we can say, hey, wow. Okay.
Yeah. I wrote a feature based on the short, loosely. Thank you. I was going to say I signed a shopping agreement.
It's just the hard part with that is, and here's the thing, everyone.
I know we can cut that out.
Ellie wrote an amazing script, and it's over here, and it is really beautiful. You know how the climate is. Everyone wants something, and nobody wants. We don't want dramas. We don't want this. We don't want that. I'm like, then what do you want? Then all of a sudden you do a drama. I'm like, but you just said you don't want to do one. It's hard.
I know. No, not even. Like, we can cut that too, because I know it's like that's us. That's you and me. But I thought it'd be kind of ironic and funny.
Okay. But so, no, Ellie, what's next? What can we look forward to? What are you pitching? What can we blast? Tell us all that.
Yeah. On that note, too, my brain, because I just wrote a feature in late 21, take that out, let's start over. I wrote a feature called I Was Here that was based on my last film. And I am on the beat now working to get that made. And so my penchant was to go right into writing something else because I'm being asked, what else do you have? And so instead, in Ellie Way, I wrote what was wanting to be written right now, which is a short story series called Portal. I'm so excited about it. I'm in the midst of writing it right now. It's going so well. And just like the nature of our whole conversation, it was a portal, a gateway into me now writing. I'm writing a treatment for a potential thriller. I'm getting all of these. It wet my whistle, if you will, just because I leaned into what I wanted to write in the moment versus what I should be writing when movie producers are interested in something else. So what's next for me is directing the feature that I wrote. That's what I'm aiming to do. But of course, I've got my hands in a bunch of pies too. So we'll see. We'll see.
Okay, well, listen, is there anything else that you want to say to the audience, or words of wisdom, or I don't know?
Oh my gosh, just this was beautiful. It's funny that, yeah, how many times in just thinking about it, reflecting about it, that I would use the phrase in the moment. So I think you've picked a perfect, subject matter to cover, and I'm inspired by it, inspired by you, and I'm excited to see where it goes for sure.
Well, thank you so much, Ellie, for being a guest. I appreciate it. We're gonna blast out your info, whatever. I mean, how to find it. They want to hire you, you're short, all these great things. And we're going to do a follow-up because we want to, always hear from everybody and see what they're doing. So thank you so much. Once again, this is In the Moment with Michael Jones. I appreciate it. And I will see you on the next one.